Ben, it is great to see you again. It's been quite a while since our last interview. You were actually the second interview I had ever done. I know it got uploaded as the fourth one officially. It's just because it took a while to get the videos sorted from the studio. And yeah, as a bonus, it was in real life, the interview we done over in London. I think I've only done two interviews since then in person. So yeah, it was quite a unique case there. And here we are now, a year and a few months later, doing the follow up. For some context for the viewer, this is what I wrote on X as the caption to summarize the video. From a lost teenager with no purpose, working in hospitality and playing games in his spare time, to a complete mindset shift and a new income stream from copywriting after joining the real world. That was the caption there. And I remember you said you had earned 1,000 from copywriting at the time. So since then, a year and 2 months, how's everything progressed for you?
Rockers G, it's a pleasure to be here first and foremost. And to answer that question very simply before we delve into it, the last year and a couple of months have been absolutely exponential in regards to my improvements in all different realms. I'm not even just going to talk about financially in this specific podcast, but also in terms of my fitness and also in terms of the relationships. I've been able to forge recently some of the most professional and valuable relationships that I've had. I was going to say in a very long time, but ever to
Mhm.
that extent. And it's just been a phenomenal journey to this point. And to think that I've only just begun really the best part about it. When I look back over the last year and think about all the different adversities that I had to push through, all the different challenges that becoming self-employed brought me. I've also seen I've also seen a taste of what the rewards are as a result as well, and it's only made me hungry for more.
Okay, I love that. It's actually a very common theme that I've been hearing recently. And I'm guessing it relates to you as well. That initially, when you start out on this journey, on this path, you're a lone wolf for a bit of time, but it's not something that lasts. Eventually, you meet people with the same mindset who are on the same journey as you, and you just connect with them because it's rare to actually find people with that kind of mindset. So when you find them, you gravitate towards them, and it's the same for them as well. And I'm presuming that's how you've built those relationships that you just spoke about. Any context to give there? Was that roughly correct?
Yeah, sure, of course. So as a result of finding new successes, I think a lot of people, as you said, when people talk about their network expanding and the different people that they end up meeting, honestly, it does coexist. When your money increases, so does everything else around you. But I believe that money also comes as a byproduct of the other improvements in your life as well. So the first thing I did do when I first began Hustlers University was I began working on my fitness straight away to begin with. That was something that was extremely well pushed, as well as the relationships and also the money as a bifold. And to give a slight bit of context on the relationships specifically, I think it all began when I first landed my first retainer client, and as a result of really achieving some very significant results straight off the bat within the first 4 months. So my first client was an SEO project working with ads management on Meta, and my results within 4 months were absolutely extraordinary. I worked on behalf of a restaurant. They were extremely happy with the results I achieved. I achieved page one for all different 12 criteria that we had set out from month one. And now it's just a case of maintaining that criteria over time. But to lead on from your point, what I achieved as a result was different connections, and it allowed me to branch out. In doing so, you get introduced to new people, and therefore you get introduced to new industries. And with the new introduction to different industries that I experienced, I also picked up different parts of knowledge from all over the place. And then it was just a case of piecing the puzzle together just to make sure that eventually something came as a result. And I think it also comes as a result of being personable with these people as well, just to make sure that you conduct yourself professionally in certain environments, and also making sure that you're providing as much value as you're receiving in return as well. And as a result of going down these different avenues, I've been able to pick up several more monthly retainer clients as well as individual projects as well. And that's kind of led me to where I am today in terms of the different relationships I have and also the money that I've made recently.
All right. Before going on to how much money you've made, I'd like to hear, as much as you remember, month by month from our last interview, how you've progressed through Hustlers University, how you landed new clients, how many outreaches you actually ended up sending, maybe you got referrals, just the whole journey, again, month by month, as much as you remember, all around that.
Sure. So what I'll do, I'll go in 2 month increments because I think that
Okay,
works
that's
really
fine.
well
Yeah.
in terms of my case study, we'll call it. So based off our last interview, I'd made £1,000 at the time, and I was over the moon because I thought, wow, we're really kind of getting a foothold in the industry. 2 months later, I decided to expand expand my knowledge and expand what I knew. I knew I needed to find the right people. I knew I also needed to drift away from solely copywriting because look, copywriting is a great industry. I think the way it's taught in Hustlers University as well is absolutely phenomenal. However, I also think that because there are so many people doing it, you also need to find your own specific niche or you also need to find your own different way of doing it. So as a result, I looked for every single different way that copy is used in its entirety because you can just begin with email sequences, which is what I did originally. You can begin with product descriptions, which is what I also did. But then you also have to think, where else are you reading content? Where else are you being influenced to make a purchase to some degree, whether that's online, whether that's in person, reading books. So I ended up doing a slight bit of research myself. I went out, I looked around for different promotional methods. How are people trying to incentivize me to buy? And in doing so, that was when I actually walked past the restaurant that I now work on behalf of. I saw that the way that they were incentivizing customers to come to their restaurant was quite weak, and I thought I could offer some additional help there. So, based on a board that was outside, I actually went in and had the discussion with the manager at the time about how I could utilize the skills that I know with regard to copywriting into promoting their restaurant because it's a very restaurants are a very competitive industry. It's very difficult to get repeat customers because as soon as you have one bad experience as a customer, you tend to move on. So I said to them, I want to find a way that I can help you bring in traffic to your restaurant and maintain them as well. So they said that they were having extreme trouble with their meta ads, and that's where I began for the first 2 months. So I actually went out rather than sending emails. I believe that emails definitely have their purpose. However, I'm a very personable person, and I like to be able to sell myself as well as my product/service on top. So those were my first 2 months, and then I began. So I began out with some quite good results. It started off very well. 2 months in, it was actually by the 4 months that I just mentioned where things really, really took off, and the results were absolutely amazing. As a result of attaining those results in the first 2 months, I then took those results, and that's when I began utilizing cold outreach. So I began outreaching to content creators. I wanted to see how my skills would be able to be used by content creators, and how we might be able to find another way where, in doing so, and with me working with them, we'd be able to find another way that I could expand my skills as well as make more money in doing so. So, without naming the content creator, I actually stumbled upon a very, very large content creator. Very fortunate at the time. I think everyone has a different buying window, and had it have been 1 month later, for example, he may have found someone that in the position that I'm currently in. However, I think when you attack things at the right time, you act with speed, you get there ahead of everyone else. I identified an issue that a content creator had, not just in the way that he promotes himself, but also in the way that he markets to his audience. He's far from fluent in English, and I knew that as a copywriter, as someone who articulates himself relatively well, and someone that knows how to write, I thought that would be the perfect opportunity for myself to get involved in the brand there. And as a result, I scheduled a very very professional meeting. We actually went through three different calls before I managed to close anything. But as a result, I landed my biggest retainer to date, and off the back of that, I've now achieved over 1 billion views with this client of mine. And that's some serious going. Those watching who know their content creation know that a few million views is obviously a great start, but when you're now working in the billions of views, it's a completely different level. And in doing so, I've learned how to master algorithms, whether that's through Instagram, through Facebook, through TikTok or YouTube. I've also learned posting methods, also how to repurpose content. I think is also something that's extremely important in content creation, to make sure that as much content as you have, you can always make more from it, regardless of the results it initially received, whether it was fantastic to begin with or whether it struggled to begin with. There's always a way to repurpose your content to make something out of it. And that's what I began doing since month 4. And then I'll actually skip for 4 months, Rockus, if that's okay.
Yeah.
I'll move on 4 months as a result of working with those two clients of mine very personally to a travel that I had. I traveled over to Lithuania as part of my newfound work, and in doing so, I met my current day business partner, who I didn't obviously know at the time. I had no idea he would become my business partner eventually. But when I traveled to Romania, I was picking up the different culture. It was amazing. I was really kind of living the life while I was there. However, in doing so, Lithuania, for those who don't know, a lot of their population don't speak an awful lot of English, and the team that I work with is also French. So I found myself sat next to two English guys who I immediately gravitated to as a result, and I began asking them, hey guys, as a result of my skills that I'd learned as well. Hey guys, kind of what is it you do? I heard you talking about social media. Perhaps there's it's worth taking each other's contacts. I ended up spending 5 hours speaking to my current day business partner and his partner at the time, who we've now started our own agency together. We now cover and encompass the entire side of digital marketing and social media management. And as a result of doing so, we've now just landed. I'm very proud to say as well, we've just landed a very, without naming again, a very, very popular rapper that we're now going to run the socials for, as well as a few other clients here and there as well. So within the space of the last 4 months, that's where we've drifted towards. I now have everything in my agency, apart from my one main client that I keep on the side as well. And that's how I've been able to amass what I have to date.
Mm-hmm. Okay, quite a rundown. Love that. I didn't realize you were in Lithuania. Quite
Yes,
something.
I've
How was it?
traveled. So I was in Lithuania for 4 days.
Mhm.
That was my first travel on behalf of work. And since then, I've also been able to travel to Paris, Toulouse, Chicago, Los Angeles, New York, and Prague as well. So I'm
Damn.
kind of getting a bit everywhere.
Rare. And all because of you starting out in copywriting.
Precisely.
Crazy. Okay, and then yeah, after all of that, how much is it now that you earn?
Sure. So as of this month alone, I've just closed my first $10,000 a month, which I'm obviously over the moon about. I think it's been a very eventful journey up until this point, but now it's definitely about remaining consistent, making sure that this is a consistent monthly income. I think that, as also said before, I have only just begun. I see this as the entrance level to what I should be and will be achieving in the very near future. I think that as a result of my modern day and current day connections as well, the sum of money that I make per month is only going to increase. Also, the wealth of knowledge that I'm receiving and also being able to provide to those around me has also severely helped on this journey as well.
Mhm. Damn, I think was that the agreement we had when we done the first interview that we'll do the re-interview once you reach 10,000 a month?
It was, yes. I think we,
Mm.
we we spoke briefly off camera and said that we'd definitely get another interview coming when I reach my first 10K a month, and therefore 1 year, just over one. I wish I could have got it within 1 year, but just over 1 year is there's no issue there with me.
Yeah. I mean, a few months later, 10,000 a month, it doesn't matter. But yeah,
Exactly.
congratulations. That's
Thank you.
super awesome to hear. And yeah, the traveling you're doing, the how you develop as a person as well over that 1 year from the work you're doing, I'm sure that pushes you to be better and just improvements in every area of life. So great to hear. Are you still actually using Hustlers University for resources, or have you quote unquote graduated?
Sure. So I believe at the position I am now, I've quote unquote graduated. However, I do make it a consistent effort and pledge of my own to continually revisit the content to make sure that not only as I'm developing as a person, I'm also not falling behind in other areas. I've also delved back into Hustlers University for their content creation campus. I thought that was absolutely fantastic. I've learned a lot since being in there as well. It's also helped me as a result of moving into content creation myself as well, not just for myself, but for my clients. I've been able to offer advice based on what I've learned there. And I also like to make it big thing about what I do with regard to as much value as I've received, I like to give back as much as possible. And therefore, to the G's that are currently hustling in Hustlers University, I like to be able to help them on their mission, on their journey. In some, I kind of like to dedicate about half an hour every week minimum to make sure that I'm answering some questions, make sure that I'm giving back the value that I initially received.
Okay, beautiful to hear. Okay, and yeah, it's not. It's just like a university. You eventually you graduate, but as you said, there's still campuses which you can make use of. So maybe copywriting, you've advanced far enough to where you don't need to be looking for the resources anymore, but there's always something new. So in your case, content creation, AI, see how you can apply that. So yeah, great to hear. And now, I don't know if I asked this last time we done the interview. I don't think I did. What were your plans before you actually joined HU, and how have they changed since?
That you didn't ask me that before, but that is a great question for sure. Originally, my plans before joining HU and finding success over the last year and few months was definitely to go and travel. I fell into that clown world kind of stereotype of person who grows up in the UK and then saves up some money and goes and travels, and then travels not only on a budget but also to countries for only a couple of days where you can't experience all it has to offer. I also believe that I would do it with a large group of quote friends at the time who were all at university getting themselves into debt, which I just think is one of the worst. It's a very personal opinion, but I think it's one of the worst decisions you can make. I think so many people come out of university still not knowing what they want to do, and also when they're going to tell me that they've got a piece of paper that tells them they can do something better than me, and I hand them 3 years worth of experience instead. I think it's all the difference. So originally I saw myself traveling, and now to think that I saw myself traveling on minimum budget to now being able to travel for free, to now having closed $200,000 worth of sales for one of my clients, and an extra 30,000 worth of reimbursements on top of that as well. I couldn't see myself anywhere else than what I'm doing now. I've been able to travel for free. I've been able to live for free, eat for free, and it's just honestly, it's the most self-rewarding thing that I've done to date with regard to not just earning myself income and some commission and also some monthly retainers with what I do, but knowing that I've leveled other people up as a result. And I've also been able to live a life that I would otherwise had to have lived on a pretty basic scale, and also I would have had to end that dream very, very shortly as well.
Mhm. Wow, that's huge. And yeah, with the development you're making, what more could you want in that time? That's insane. Um, how different is your average day now then compared to before when we done the interview? How has that changed, if you remember?
My average day is definitely busier.
Mm-hmm.
I originally, when we had the first interview, after I made a bit of money, I'll be completely honest, I became slightly content with what I'd made at the time. Not in the sense of no, obviously £1,000 is never gonna get you very far, but I'd become slightly content knowing that I'd made some money. I knew kind of the brief outline of what I needed to do. I knew I could do it, and I believe now, with that said, that comfort is definitely the killer of potential. I think when you become too comfortable, I think you lose track of where you should be and where you want to be, and therefore, as a result of kind of switching my mindset in that time and looking at how things have planned out since, my schedule is definitely much busier. I bought myself a planner, and I can't actually recommend this enough for something so cheap. I think it's the most beneficial thing. Not to stay on track of time. I think everyone should be doing that anyway. Anyone watching this podcast specifically should be on time to every single thing they put their mind to. What I do believe a planner is good for is identifying times in the day where you are unproductive, times in the day where not necessarily you have something available, but those that you don't. Fill that time, find something productive. It also means that when you see those 2 hours, for example, that you don't have anything scheduled for, you either work your ass off to make sure that something gets scheduled for it, or you fill the time with reading the new book or listening to a tape podcast and learning something about yourself, as opposed to hopping on Netflix and watching a 2 hour documentary about something that isn't going to teach you an awful lot at all. Especially getting lost in a series, that is the most time consuming thing and non-productive thing you can do. I found that buying myself a planner, making sure that everything is scheduled, and finding time where I need to make use of what I still have left. I think that is the biggest change that I've had since. And originally, when I believed I was doing enough and therefore I became content, I was like, oh, I was putting a few hours in, I was working, and when I've got results, I at the time, until the last 8 months specifically, I never looked specifically at how I can utilize every minute as opposed to every working hour.
Mm-hmm. But Ben, what about people who think that's excessive? You need time to relax. How could you be working so much nonstop? You're gonna burn out.
So, truth be told, I think the longer you remain idle, the longer your parents remain active. And I think there's no better way to put it than that. And I think if you're going to prevent yourself from reaching your potential, there's no bigger injustice to yourself possible out there. I think while we have the energy, while we're relatively young, we should be absolutely utilizing that to the best of our ability. And I'm not saying every single waking hour needs to be working. You do definitely need to reward yourself when you hit certain milestones. Never get too comfortable for too long, but definitely reward yourself and make sure that you're aware that you are achieving things. I also think that you should dedicate a minimum of 2 hours per day to the gym or some kind of physical exercise. Get yourself out of the house, build your discipline within your mindset. Make sure that every single part of your day, regardless whether it's work or not, is still productive. Something that improves something in the long term. Even if you're spending money to be out somewhere where there's going to be people you might be able to forge a bond with or forge a potential business relationship with in the future, it's so important that every waking minute is used productively to set yourself up for the future, when therefore you don't need to work. Because the issue is, if you don't put in the hours now, you will spend the rest of your life working. I plan on retiring my parents at some point, and I also plan on retiring myself earlier and passing on my legacy and everything I've built to my future children. That is my lifetime goal to date, and that is something that the idea of it not happening frightens me. And therefore, for those who are content with what they're doing, for those who are happy with their 9 to 5 job, at the end of the day, people need to work them. And therefore, I'm not going to slander anyone for doing so. But for the people like myself, and likelihood those who are watching this podcast specifically, I highly recommend that every single time you see some available time, you use it productively. It is not excessive. It will be way more beneficial for you in the future when you put the effort in now and make it happen for the future.
Very, very good answer. And since you mentioned parents, what are your parents think about what you're doing and what you've accomplished?
Great question. So it's actually hilarious. When I first began what I was doing now, the opinion of what I was doing was far, far more negative than it is now. Now, don't
I
get me
wonder
wrong, I
why.
don't speak about specific numbers with my parents. I don't tell them exactly what I make. Uh, I don't tell them the ins and outs or the details of what I do to make my money, but they have certainly noticed a difference in my persona over the last year and a couple of months. They've noticed a difference in how I conduct myself around the house. They've noticed a difference in certainly the frequency of when and how I travel. I think that's the biggest indicator of kind of how well I'm doing, and still how well I'm yet to do. But for the first couple of months, for sure, when I decided to go part time in my hospitality job, when I moved from 65 hours a week to 30 hours a week, they thought that was crazy. They said, get back in the job, make yourself money. And their opinion couldn't be any more different now. They began consulting with me for the first couple of months about how they believed I should be doing something different, how they thought if I didn't enjoy hospitality, I should be getting a different job instead. And now, after seeing myself reap the rewards as a result of what I'm doing now, how much more confident I am, how much better dressed I am. I'm wearing much better clothes, much more expensive clothes. I'm tailoring my clothes, how much bigger I am as a result of consistently being in the gym. How I won my first ever boxing fight by TKO. That was huge as well. And they never expected they never expected to see me in the ring ever. And even to pushing my first 100 kilos a month ago, and now I do it consistently. It's these kind of things that have broadened the perspective of my parents and what they now know is possible.
Mhm. Wow, quite something, quite an answer. How amazing that is to hear. So, how was the experience in the ring and preparing for that?
I think I learned so much more about myself than I initially thought I would. I saw a lot of victories coming into Hustlers University about how certain Gs were making the most of their time, not just in the gym, but also in combat sports. I actually felt personally challenged. My ego was slightly raised. I felt, how can I sit here with an ego when I'm improving in one field or realm of my life, and then I'm sitting idly by and watching these Gs absolutely slaughter someone else in the ring. It was definitely a kick up the arse for myself, and I actually had a conversation with someone that I began forming a friendship with at the time over a cigar, and I said to him, oh, I've been seeing these G's, like they're absolutely killing it in the ring at the moment. It's something I'd love to do at some point. His question to me was, why have you not already signed up? And truth be told, he was the one that actually sent the link to my phone. He said, I'm sending you the link right now. I want you to sign up in front of me. And I will never forget this moment in my life, because I think it changed so much about not just my mindset in relation to business, but my mindset in relation to myself. How confident was I that in 8 weeks' time, I could turn up in front of everyone who'd come to support me, my family, my friends, some of my network? How could I turn up to that event and look them in the face after and say, I've failed? I couldn't do it. So, in amongst the process of me visualizing what might happen as a result, the truth be told, you don't actually know what's going to happen when you get in that ring. You don't know who you're going to fight before you get there. It's a very exhilarating experience for sure, but in the process, you learn whether you're a quitter or not. In my specific camp, we actually began with 95 people, and on fight night there were 40 remaining. So that's a testament alone to how many people actually tend to quit, how many people don't like facing adversities, how many people get challenged and back out. So I'd made it as far as that, but for myself, that was never going to be enough. Stepping into the ring is a completely different experience. I think everyone should experience that at some point in their life. Anyone watching this podcast currently, right now, you need to think to yourself, is there any greater pride than bringing home a victory with relation to a combat sport? How much prouder in not just yourself would you be if you picked up the confidence to take up a combat sport, put yourself through the paces for 8 weeks straight, build discipline, turn up on the night, and win that fight. Win it however you want. Win it through points, win it through TKO, win it through an absolutely extraordinary knockout. However, you're going to do it, pick up the courage, pick up your balls, and take yourself into a ring or a cage. It's the best thing you can do. It's the best thing to develop a mindset. It's the best thing to build your discipline for sure.
Fair enough. And yeah, congratulations on the win.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Awesome. All right. I think that's most of the aspects covered then. Physicality, mentality. Mentality has changed. As you said, parents have noticed a shift in you. So yeah, that would be mentality related. The work ethic, mentality related. I guess everything's mentality related. Then yeah, physicality, finances, huge. Basically 10x, but now monthly what you had totaled before. So again,
Yes.
insane progress there. Yeah, I'm happy to wrap up there then. And for follow-up interview, let's just set some guidelines. So what plans do you have for short-term, medium-term, long-term?
Ooh, put me on the spot there. Okay, brilliant. So short term, I look at I look at closing a total of $500,000 within the next 5 months. I think that's a great boundary to set. That sets me at 100,000. And for those viewers who are watching right now, unfortunately, that money is not for myself. I'm selling a service on behalf of one of my clients. However, I do take a small commission, of course. So I look at closing a total of 500,000. I've already closed 200,000. That gives me 300,000 left in 5 months. I think that's a very good benchmark for the end of Q2 of the year. So we'll call that short term. Medium term, I'll speak on behalf of the end of the year. By the end of the year, I want to have earned myself double what I earned last year. We can definitely go into specifics about that off camera for sure. But based on the progression I've made so far, it's something that is definitely attainable should I keep the momentum, which I'm telling myself now I absolutely will. And long term, bro, I honestly generational wealth. As I said earlier, briefly, my long term goal is to build the core foundation of a very successful business that I'm able to use and sell as my legacy moving forward, and have my eventual children pick that up. And I will teach them. I'll teach them the guidelines. I'll teach them how to become G's. Or unless I've got a daughter, then she'd obviously be a princess. Um, yeah, certainly for long term results, I'm looking for generational wealth, and I'm looking to leave a legacy of my own in the current industry that I'm in.
All right, love that. And now to wrap up, since this began in HU with copywriting, for people who are unsure about joining, because what if they're going to get scammed for $50? What advice would you have to them?
I think I said this on the first podcast, Rockus. I think if you're so concerned about being scammed for $50 as it is, I think you may not even be the right person to join Hustlers University to begin with. For me, $50 was a worthwhile investment to put into myself, knowing that if worse came to worse, I lost $50 and I'd be able to get on with my day and still operate as normal. However, as those watching will know, after watching hundreds now of podcasts of Discover the Real World, you will know that this $50 per month subscription, as long as you use it wisely, there is no better investment that you can make in the modern day. Just imagine there are people out there currently spending £11,500 every year for a university degree for 3 years. They're building up masses of debt in doing so. They're going out partying. They're getting themselves involved in degeneracy. They're spending another few thousand every year on their accommodation. They're living in absolute pigsties, and you're at home at the moment in a very privileged position. And if you can't be bothered to pull out $50 to change your entire life, unfortunately, you're lost at this point. You are lost. You are lost. You've been claimed by Clown World. It's just a fact. However, for those of you that are still considering it somehow, hundreds of podcasts later, after seeing all these different wins from all these different Gs, get yourself involved. I will be in the copywriting room every week. I will help anyone in there to accomplish exactly what they want to accomplish. I'll help get you to my level at least. And as I progress, obviously, I'll be able to progress you up with me as well. There are hundreds of thousands of students in there that can all do exactly the same thing. Everyone is on their own path, but we have a collective goal, and the collective goal is to make a load of money, improve our network, and get fit.
What an amazing answer. I love that. And yeah, completely right. So now, for people who want to find out more about you or contact you, where can they do so?
Sure. I contact mostly on my Instagram at Ben Pierce with two E's with an underscore at the end. And I also, no, yeah, we'll leave it there.
Okay, just Instagram. Cool. So we'll add that to the description of the video. And as you said, through the real world as well. They'll see you. Cool. So Ben, it was great catching up.
Likewise.
Great to hear. And congratulations on all the improvements, on everything you're doing, the steps you're taking to better yourself and become the best version of yourself. With the trajectory you're on, imagine in another year. Insane. It'll be like next thing you know, yeah, so I landed on the moon last month. I don't know, just say random stuff, but I'm sure we'll have some insane things to update us on again because of the progress you're making
I've
and the
only just
trajectory
begun.
that you're on. So I look forward to that. And yeah, all the best to you until then.
Thank you, Rockers. Likewise.